Before we start, the name is at the top of the screen. He is currently in a new camper van. For some reason there is a white owl beside him and then in front of him is a rampaging giant monster. One day earlier, he stands in front of the dealership as the staff completes the final inspection. The lady in charge smiles brightly as she congratulates him on his new car, her voice warm and sincere. It is his dream vehicle, the one he imagined countless times but never thought he would actually own. His chest tightens, overwhelmed with joy and disbelief. She tells him she is happy to be the one who gets to hand it over to him. As a small celebration gift for the delivery, she gives him a selfie stick. She explains that it can also be used as a tripod. She tells him to take commemorative photos with everyone at the campsite and also to film solo camping scenes. She mentions that it is a popular item and that camping enthusiasts still show a huge demand for it. Yoshioka decides to use it immediately. He asks her to join the picture as well and says that it looks great with the camper van in the background. The two of them stand side by side as he sets up the shot, the massive vehicle towering proudly behind them. He presses the shutter and then tries starting the engine. The key turns. The engine responds. His excitement spills over as his hands tremble slightly on the steering wheel. Afterward, he buys supplies through the shop and then drives to a campsite where several other campers are already settled. He parks among them and is on a call with someone. On the call, he tells the person on the other end that he bought it. He explains that it is a bus conversion. When the man repeats, bus conversion, in disbelief, he clarifies that it is a large one based on a microbus. It is just barely within the size that can legally be driven with a regular license. The man on the other side asks if that kind of vehicle is not incredibly expensive. He also points out that the maintenance costs must be terrible. Yoshioka calmly replies that the price is over 20 million yen. The man gasps and says that is insanely expensive. He asks if Yoshioka is working at such an incredible company to afford that. Yoshioka explains that the company completely ignores compliance. It shuts off power without warning, allows mistreatment, moral mistreatment and abusive mistreatment as if it is part of normal operations. They want their employees to become company dogs and work like horses. He says that he is always too busy to have time to spend money, which ironically turned out to be a good thing. In addition to that, he explains that he has been living on the edge of survival for about 10 years. During college, he saves money from part-time jobs and puts it into systematic investments. That long grind finally pays off. The man on the other end mutters that this is more than enough to understand the situation. The man senses the tension in the conversation and quickly shifts the topic. He asks whether he even has a use for such a huge camper when he is single. He smiles as he speaks and replies that this is exactly why he bought it. He suggests that they all go on a camper trip together again. He reminds his friend that he used to travel everywhere in their senior's camper during their student days. He says they should relive that joy and have fun together again. His friend stops him immediately and reminds him that everyone is now a working adult. Some of them are already married, and some already have children. It is not like their student days anymore. Yoshioka acknowledges that he understands this, but he also insists that there is a unique joy that can only be experienced in a camper van. He talks about chatting and laughing inside their moving home while heading toward their destination. He says they can spend the entire day inside without worrying about the weather outside. He continues, saying he can cook inside the vehicle. He can sleep in a real bed. Just experiencing something a little outside the ordinary, something that enriches the soul. For people who find their everyday lives dull and repetitive, this kind of trip becomes a small spark of excitement. It becomes a valuable way to blow off steam. He adds that he will coordinate everyone's schedules himself and prepare all the camping equipment. He also says that family members, spouses, and even children are welcome to join. His friend finally realizes that Yoshioka is completely serious. He sighs and replies that he will try contacting their old outdoor buddies from school. Yoshioka thanks him sincerely. Then his friend hesitates and asks again, making sure, did he really buy a camper? Or is he starting to hallucinate from overworking? If he is truly a corporate servant, will he even have the time to travel himself? Yoshioka answers immediately. He says that he is quitting that company. He bought what he wanted. As he steps inside the van, he exhales deeply before relief collides with joy, sending him into a happy mental breakdown. He throws both hands into the air in pure triumph, laughing as he declares that he finally did it, that he bought this with his own hands after working so hard he felt like he was spitting blood, and now he is going to have fun because having fun is important. He learned at that hellish company that even with money, a joyless life feels like being buried at the bottom of hell. He decides to stay here tonight and travel alone tomorrow, then have fun with his old friends again, and someday find a cute lover to travel with, eventually building a family. But before he can finish the thought, he collapses into sleep. Morning light pours through the window and jolts him awake in panic, his reflex screaming that he is late before he remembers that he is on paid leave and realizes how deeply his corporate servant mentality is carved into his instincts. And as he calms down, he looks out the window in disbelief before rushing outside, only to freeze in shock as nothing but endless mountain spreads out before him, no lake in sight, no campsite, nothing familiar at all, and his confusion turns into dread as he mutters where the lake has gone, because he is sure he parked at the auto campsite, and yet he has no memory of driving anywhere at all. He checks his phone in a hurry to confirm his location, but the signal is completely out of range, forcing him back into the van to check the navigation system, which should work even in poor communication environments due to its correction function. Yet when he turns it on, nothing normal appears at all, only strange screens and bizarre marking, and when he tries to pull up a map he cannot even recognize what kind of display he is looking at, as unfamiliar points hover across the screen, making his tension deepen as he wonders whether anything like this is written in the manual. Then suddenly something violently slams against the window, making him flinch in terror as he rushes outside to find an injured white owl on the ground with something sharp stuck in its feathers, and although he has heard that birds of prey are dangerous, he cannot ignore its pain, so he carefully lifts it into his lap and pulls the object out as gently as he can, then takes out the first aid kit and bandages its wing. And although the treatment is simple, it still makes him feel strangely relieved when the owl suddenly lands on his shoulder afterward and presses its face affectionately against his cheek. He stiffens in surprise, wondering if it is thanking him, until a rustling sound erupts from behind the bushes and the owl jumps in fright, and the sight of arrows embedded nearby tells him someone had shot at it, sending fear through his spine. He calls out for whoever is there not to shoot because he has something he wants to ask, but when the figures step out from the bushes they are not human at all, and the moment he realizes that, terror floods his every nerve as he spins around, sprints back into the van, starts the engine and desperately drives away at full speed. He does not slow down until they completely disappear from the rear monitor, and only then does his breathing ease slightly as he wonders what kind of remote place this even is, when suddenly something begins to appear ahead of him and his face pales as he nervously wonders what is about to come out this time, but to his shock it is a girl holding a sword while floating in the air, and behind her emerges an extremely huge monster. He panics as she lands on the ground, and as the monster gets distracted she summons her power and raises her sword, hitting him on the head, making him stare in disbelief as he murmurs that it feels far too realistic for a show. But then their eyes meet and she suddenly shouts at him not to move and lunges at him with her sword, leaving him stunned when he realizes that she is speaking Japanese, and just after that she suddenly collapses onto the ground, making him wonder if she has run out of strength. He then realizes she might be injured and tells the owl to wait before running over to check on her, and as he looks closely his eyes fall on her ears, which look human except they are long and pointed, making him wonder what that means. And when he looks again at the corpse of the giant monster and recalls the small green monsters he encountered earlier, he understands that although the surrounding landscape looks like Japan as far as the eye can see, one thing is now clear: this is not his original world, and while he does not fully understand whether it is a multiverse or interdimensional travel, it seems certain that he has wandered into another world. He makes porridge for her together with the owl, which keeps flapping lightly on his shoulder as if supervising every movement. When he finally hands her the bowl, as she eats it, her face twists in pure shock and awe, and she eats faster, as if afraid it might disappear. He watches her with a quiet smile, never imagining that someone would eat simple retort porridge with such devotion. After she finishes, she tells him that she already feels much better, and he replies that this is all that matters. With a shy expression, she explains that on the way back from hunting she runs into a dangerous monster, and while fighting it she drops her luggage. Before she realizes it, several days pass with no food and no water. He listens in confusion. She is clearly speaking Japanese, yet at the same time, none of what she says feels like Japanese at all. She continues, saying that she thinks she defeats the monster, but then another one appears, and she rushes out to look for help while already at her limit from hunger. A strange realization strikes him, and he slowly points at his van with a trembling finger, asking if that thing is a monster to her. She answers calmly that yes, it is a monster, but since it is quiet, it does not seem dangerous. He quickly tells her that it is not dangerous at all, that it is his important partner, while inside his mind he cannot help thinking that his camper really does look like a monster to her, and that this alone confirms he is truly in another world. She thanks him again for the food and introduces herself as Gina. He introduces himself as Yoshioka, and she tilts her head and says his name sounds unusual, asking if he is from a foreign country. He hesitates and then asks if she knows Japan. She answers that she has never heard of it and wonders if it is in Shijit's village. He asks where she is from, and she replies that she is an elf and lives in a village called Hakim. He thinks to himself that as expected, she really is an elf. It is a relief that they can communicate and that there is no language barrier between them, yet the question of whether there is any way to return to his original world quietly settles in his chest and refuses to go away. Gina lowers her gaze to her plate. Thinking that she seems like a straightforward child, he begins to get up, but the moment he steps closer, she instantly snaps into a combat stance and almost attacks him on reflex. He staggers back in surprise. She reacts just as fast, apologizing repeatedly and explaining that it is only a reflex. He raises both hands and tells her that it is understandable since she has been fighting for days. He is about to say something about the camp but stops himself, changing his words and saying that he will take care of the monster and wash the dishes while he is at it, but she quickly insists that she will wash the dishes inside instead. He casually asks the owl whether it likes this arrangement, and when it actually nods, he stares at it and wonders if it truly understands his words. He then checks the strange screen again. There are retention points displayed at 1.0, and there are also 1 or 2 points next to the arrange function. He wonders if adding features will cause those points to be deducted. The only things visible on the display are mountains, rivers, and forests. It is perfect for the outdoors, and at least the navigation function exists. Next, he checks the fuel and water supply function. This is indispensable. However, nothing changes. It still shows that something remains, but he has no idea when or at what time it will be replenished. He remembers that all he wanted was to enjoy the outdoors normally in his original world, yet now he sees that 7 points remain, and he begins to wonder what the vehicle body storage function means. Driving a camper van is difficult, and there do not seem to be any proper roads here. A function that allows him to store the vehicle inside caves or under rock ledges would be very convenient. He presses the automatic repair and storage function, and the system instructs him to point both hands toward the vehicle to store it, and to point again to deploy it. He steps outside and does exactly that and the van disappears instantly. His heart jumps violently in panic, but he forces himself to deploy it again, and when the van reappears, he finally exhales in relief, wondering just what kind of absurd function this is. At that moment, Gina suddenly says that it is amazing. He turns toward her, and she stares at him in shock, saying that he must be incredibly strong to use such powerful summon magic in an instant, and that he even brought along Mr. Forest Owl. He looks sideways at the owl on his shoulder and repeats the name in confusion before quietly asking it if it is being called a lord now, wondering if it is actually something incredible. Suddenly, Gina throws her sword, and it slashes through the air past him. Both he and the owl flinch in fear. As she steps forward, he trembles and asks if he has done something to offend her, but then he realizes in shock that there is a monster behind him. She slashes it down immediately and says that it seems goblins have come sniffing around for monster carrion. He stammers that he thinks there is one more. At that exact moment, another monster leaps into the air to strike, but she releases her magic at the final instant and kills it. He can only stare in disbelief at how fast everything happens. She turns to him and says that they should move soon. He hurriedly replies that he cannot, because he is not familiar with this land at all and does not know where to go. She tells him she's returning to her Hakim village. It is the closest village with few monsters and it is safe. And won't he come with her as he is her savior, so he's welcome. He whispers to the owl that perhaps it could help gather information about the world or find a way to return to his original one. He wonders what he should do in a place like this. He glances at her again and asks if it would be alright for the owl to come along. She nods, saying that it is fine. Then, without warning, she collapses to the ground. He freezes, panic rising as he leans closer, asking if she is hurt anywhere. Realization hits him. She has not eaten in days, and a single bowl of porridge would not be enough. He tells her that he will bring some portable food that she can eat immediately, and she closes her eyes, her face tinged with embarrassment. The rain begins to pour heavily. He watches her from the window as she walks beside the vehicle. He tells her that she should get inside, that she will be sheltered from the rain and have a place to rest. She shakes her head and assures him that she is fine, that she is used to the rain, and that her strength has somewhat returned. He asks how far the village is. She smiles faintly and replies that it would take a day by horse, but 2.5 days on foot. He feels the weight of the distance pressing on him. He tries to encourage her, saying that the van can run fast and that it will not take as long as she thinks. He adds that if her body becomes cold from the rain, she will lose stamina. She thanks him quietly, then admits, with a sheepish smile, that she is actually a little afraid to get inside the van. He pauses, surprised that someone so strong could hesitate over a camper. She continues, her voice soft, explaining that even though she has received food from him, she wonders if he, who has only just met her, would hesitate to let her inside. He shakes his head firmly. He tells her that it is not true, that she helped him and is more than welcome. He gestures toward the van and explains that it is like a carriage that can move without a horse. It is not only for blocking the rain or traveling quickly. Inside, one can cook, eat, rest, stretch, sleep, or wash off the dirt. He continues slowly, pointing out that it allows one to go anywhere at any time, to enjoy free time, and to avoid insects or other animals. It provides comfort regardless of the weather, whether it is hot, cold, or rainy. It is spacious enough for many people, enough for family or friends. He extends his hand toward her, a gentle smile spreading across his face, and says that this camper van is like a moving house. But almost instantly, his triumph feels hollow. He lowers his head against the steering wheel, thinking that if monsters or demons appear in this world, they will be in serious trouble. He does not even know if water and gasoline can be properly replenished, and if it stays like this, the electricity supply might become unstable. He glances at her when she remarks that he really likes this, doesn't he? The way she says it makes him feel a little rejected, and his face falls. Yet she smiles gently, spare time for family and friends. A moving house, she says that it is wonderful. He looks up as she notices the sun breaking through the clouds and the rain stopping. She comments that the sky has become beautiful. He follows her gaze to the sunlight glinting over the mountains and agrees, noting that it is indeed beautiful. She removes her hood, and he watches her quietly, noticing the small details as she does so. She looks at him, and he nods, his face turning red. She admits, hesitantly, that she is still a little scared. She asks if he would give her a ride someday. He beams and assures her that of course he will. He also tells her that she can call him by his name without the honorific, Tono. She pauses, asking if that is truly alright, and then tells him that he may call her Gina in return. She smiles and says she is looking forward to working together while calling him by his name. The sudden familiarity makes him cover his face, shy and flustered, embarrassed that a younger girl is calling him by his first name without any honorifics. She notices his reaction and asks what is wrong. He shakes his head, insisting it is nothing, and adds that likewise, it is nice to meet her. His desire to return to his original world hasn't changed, but there are beautiful things in this world too. Connecting with someone else too. Perhaps it is not as bad as he thought. That was what he was thinking at that time, unaware that he would experience such a thing the next day. He finds himself lying on something soft and warm, a sensation so comforting that it feels like sleeping on a cloud. For a moment, all the events of the previous day fade away, and he allows himself to sink into sleep. But a sudden scream jolts him awake. He sees Gina running toward him, her face etched with worry, shouting that it's dangerous. Confused, he wonders what could be so dangerous, but then he senses it, a massive presence looming behind him. His mouth opens in a scream, but then the monster crushes him under his feet. His eyes snap open. He is exhausted, hollow-eyed, the vividness of the nightmare lingering. Was it just a dream? Or is he still trapped in it? Because another overwhelming presence presses in, and he turns only to see the owl. Panic surges as it has grown monstrously overnight, looking at him with a creepy face, letting out a scream so loud it seems to shake the van. But the vision fades, and the owl is small again, perfectly normal. His jaw drops in disbelief. The wounds from yesterday appear fully healed. Could this creature also be one of the monsters? The thought of Gina snaps him into action. He rushes outside, but she is nowhere to be seen, and the blankets he had lent her are neatly folded. Worry grips him. Where could she have gone? Then, bright and cheerful, she emerges from the forest, greeting him warmly and thanking him for lending her bedding last night. He nods and greets her back. Since she was still scared to go inside, he ended up letting her sleep outside. But is she okay? She pokes a finger at him, eyes narrowing in a playful scowl, and says she's never slept on bedding this good before. Sleeping soundly in a place like this is dangerous though. He replies nervously and says that is good. He notices the bundle she is holding and asks if she gathered anything. She replies that her leg hurts, so she took some medicinal herbs. Alarmed, he asks if her leg is injured. She glances away and downplays it, explaining that it is nothing major, just a lingering pain and swelling from yesterday's fight with the monster. He reassures her that walking will not cause a problem and that it is merely a precaution. He adds that if she needs a medicated patch, he can go look for one inside. She shakes her head and says she will just bake the food she gathered. He asks if she is planning to cook the herbs and plants. She explains that since she lost her tools along with the horse, she will wash the ingredients and grill them. He hesitates and asks if she would allow him to cook it instead, reasoning that it might taste better than simple grilling. First, before starting to cook, he checks the water tank and sees it is full. The fuel has also been replenished. He wonders if it will refill again after just one night. A small sense of relief spreads through him. His ingredients are simple: pasta and consommé cubes he bought for solo travel, and the mountain delicacies that Gina gathered. He picks up one mushroom, a medorotake, and then the other, a morchella. He notices something that looks like yam. It is yam, isn't it? Since this is another world, he cannot be completely certain, but if Gina, the hunter, gathered it, it must be safe. Until he can return home, he has no choice but to eat the food of this world. He starts boiling the pasta, meanwhile slicing the mushrooms into appropriate sizes. He prepares another pot with consommé for the mushrooms. Having two burners proves convenient, and he is grateful for the large gas stove. Once the pasta is cooked until slightly firm, he transfers it into the consommé pot to simmer a little longer. He minces the yam when it becomes sticky and lightly tops the pasta with it. The consommé soup, combined with the pasta, mushrooms, and yam, smells inviting, promising both energy replenishment and relief from fatigue. The owl peers at the food, and he asks if it wants to eat. It opens its wings in response. He tells Gina to scoop some soup and pasta together. She tastes it, and her usual chatter disappears. He asks if it is alright, and she looks up at him, face flushed with awe. She says she has never tasted anything like this, that the flavor reminds her of raw wheat, the freshness of summer. She has never experienced it before. She explains that a simple broth from stewed meat and vegetables, or salt alone, could never produce this depth of flavor, and wonders if it might be a high-class spice. She notes that the mushrooms she gathered complement the soup perfectly, and the sticky yam adds a pleasant textural contrast. The taste is so moving that it brings tears to her eyes. She declares that he is not only a summoner but also a cook. He smiles sheepishly, saying he is glad she enjoys it. He thinks that even in this world, the joy of eating remains unchanged. When the meal finishes, she thanks him, saying it was very delicious. She comments on how good the mushrooms and yam were, which makes him feel grateful in return. His gaze falls on the owl, now full and sleeping peacefully. He realizes he ended up feeding it the same meal because it begged, but considering that owls in his world are different, he guesses it is fine. Gina then asks him what is the relationship between him and Mr. Forest Owl. He asks that green monster, was it a goblin? He helped him when he was attacked and he grew fond of him. And before he knew it, they were always together. Now that he's talking about it, he asks what is the forest owl. He replies forest owl is a rare monster that catches pests that ravage fields and granaries. He looks stunned and murmurs a monster after all. She says they are also an object of worship as a messenger of the forest who helps people. He looks at him and says a monster that helps people. Now he wonders if he can understand his words to some extent. She smiles and says it can be expected of the Lord Forest Owl. He teases the owl, wondering if he should call him Lord Forest Owl. The owl immediately looks away, and he frowns, realizing it doesn't like the idea. Calling it just owl feels odd, so he decides it needs a proper name. He tosses out a few options, Hedwig, Minerva, Kepra, but the owl remains unimpressed. He laughs at himself, admitting the names are all a bit dull, and asks if it would prefer something cooler. Then he suggests Fuda. The owl's eyes suddenly sparkle, and it leaps onto his shoulder. He grins, realizing it likes the name. From that moment, it is Fuda. Gina watches and smiles, telling him to take care of her, though her tone remains formal. The sun climbs higher, and she reminds him that they should depart soon. The journey resumes, with Gina walking alongside the van. He glances at her, wondering if she is still afraid of riding in it. She pauses, thinking, then admits that last night she had wondered why she could sleep so well. The bedding helped, of course, but the true reason was that the monster was beside her. It felt familiar because of him and Fuda inside, gentle rather than dangerous, inspiring a sense of trust. That, she realizes, is why she slept so deeply. She looks at the van, apologizing silently for trying to attack it when they first met. She is no longer scared, and she quietly requests a ride if he doesn't mind. He beams and says by all means. She looks confused at his choice of words, so he clarifies. He's saying she's more than welcome and he understands how the van feels. Suddenly, Fuda flaps its wings, jumping on his shoulder and pointing ahead with his wings, trying to draw their attention. All Shigito sees are plants. But the next second Gina stiffens and calls his name sharply, her eyes narrowing. She indicates the danger, a monster lurks ahead. He peers out the window, shivering, recognizing that it is frightening, though smaller than the ones from yesterday. She tells him that strength isn't measured by size alone. She explains the creature ahead is a Diak and if it attacks, the consequences will be severe. Shigito immediately suggests that they sneak around, avoiding drawing its attention, but lets him know that the Diak is already in a battle-ready stance. She explains that Diaks are normally silent, lurking creatures that only emerge if provoked. They rarely appear on roads. She wonders why is he so agitated. His mind flits through escape plans and he tries to suggest that riding the van might give them an advantage, but she interrupts, reminding him that her speed surpasses that of a horse. And she charges forward regardless of the path. She signals for him to stay perfectly still, making no sound and holding his position. Her hand grips her sword tightly as she draws it, declaring without a flicker of doubt that she will protect them all. She doesn't pause. In a fluid motion, she dashes toward the Diak, weapon aimed with deadly precision. But as she runs, her foot twists painfully, and she stumbles slightly. He calls out in concern, realizing with a jolt that her foot is injured. Panic rises in him, his mind scrambling for anything at all, that could help her. His chest tightens. Suddenly, something occurs. He pulls out his screen instinctively, scanning for a way to assist. If only he could add that one function now. Then his gaze shifts forward, locking on her with unwavering resolve. His eyes blaze with determination. Whatever comes next, he knows he will protect her. And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part.